Morning, everybody. 8:15 a.m. Welcome to my channel. So, of course, we just had some possible 10-day ceasefire, and the markets liked it, but then seems to be pairing those gains a little bit because I think something about the Houthis or something said something just recently. I don't know. It's a crazy market. Hope everybody had a good weekend. And this market just on Friday, we basically gapped down, and in pre-market I was talking about how I thought the easier trade would be to the long side. That happened to be true. Market tried to push back, go further. It just wasn't in the cards. Like I said, a lot of my expected move to the downsides were breached. I mean, in a lot of major stocks and the indexes, and that's what the market priced in the prior Friday. And those, when they all get breached at one time, if you don't really dump hard, it's going to be a reflexive kick back up. And that's exactly what happened. And I'll show you guys in a little bit. SPY, where my expected move, it literally closed right above it. Okay. Same with the SPX. Right. SPX like almost right on it. It's very powerful tool. And I give it away for free on my Discord. So, all right, let's get right into it. Welcome to my channel. My name is Steven Gonzalez. I use market profile and buying profile and find structures in the markets. Along supply and demand, gamma exposure levels, the most traded price of the year, the month, the week, and the previous day. That is my edge. It's where I come up with my game plans. Okay. Once that market opens up, I use my market internals to see where money flows are going off the open. Okay, along a little anchored VWAP, little ICT thrown in there. Okay, my weekly expected move indicator that I give away for free. My gamma flip points. Okay, all that wrapped up gives me my proprietary trading system. Okay. Now, hopefully, you join me every morning. Subscribe, set that alert, give you the market news, technical analysis. Always give you the long and short trade scenarios in the Nasdaq and the ES futures later on in the stream. Now, if you want more in-depth coverage, you're going to join my Discord. That's Confluence Trading. Go to my YouTube homepage, click on the link, and sign up. What are you waiting for? Let me be your indicator. Okay. So, with that being said, as well, I had a nice long one trade on Friday for 200% return, 2R return. One trade done. So made me up for the week after having 6 break-even trades that week that all moved in my favor except one that was quite a week. All right, now let's go to futures watches here. Ethereum leading the pack. Silver up 1.22, Nasdaq's up 0.86, Bitcoin's up 0.86, Russell up 0.41, ES up 0.40, 10-year yield is up 0.29, Dow's up 0.20, the dollar is pretty much flat, gold's flat, 30-year bonds being sold. Crude is actually down because that possible ceasefire. The VIX is down 3.25%. I think this could be a typical Monday here. We'll see. We'll see. Okay, let's move on. We got Micron. I figured that dip would be bought. We almost made it down to $800. Again, that breach is expected to move to the downside, and then that was all she wrote. It pretty much ripped up. Okay, but it's up 4.5% this morning. AMD up 3.25. Intel up 2.44. They report earnings this week. Nvidia is up 1.42. Broadcom up 1.34. Coinbase up 1.20. GE up 1.20. Caterpillar up 1.1. Tesla's up 1%. Okay, and then we go to some laggards. Apple made all-time highs last week, down 0.61. Netflix down 0.65. Microsoft down 0.79 as software seems to be taking a hit this morning. Top sectors. GE Vernova, they report earnings this week, up 1.91%. Qualcomm, that's up 1.5%. Boeing up 1.25. McDonald's up 0.5%. Who's lagging here? Oracle down, as I talk about software, down 0.5%, and Palantir software down 1.13, Salesforce software down 1.46. So software getting killed this morning. Not killed, but it's down. Okay. Sectors. Semiconductors up 2.08%. Technology almost up 1%. Industrials up 0.66. Discretionary up 0.14. Energy down 0.24%. Okay. Let's check out the economic calendar here today. There's really nothing. Actually, nothing on here. Let me see if there's even a 1-star. Nothing really that impacts anything. Okay. Let's look at earnings calendar because that's really what it's about this week. All right. We have AMC reporting this morning. Domino's Pizza. Okay. After the close today, nothing really special. Tomorrow before the open, Halliburton, Ally, DR Horton, Charles Schwab, GM, 3M, MSCI. After the close tomorrow, nothing. But then the rest of the week, GE Vernova, AT&T, Philip Morris. Who else we have? Texas Instruments, IBM, ServiceNow, Google, Tesla. Okay, Intel, Freeport, McMoran, Blackstone, Lockheed Martin, Newmont, Verizon, Charter Communications, American Express, Nexera Energy. So decent amount of earnings this week. Okay, let's bring it back here. And the main headline. Well, let's look at the Trump schedule. I didn't really see anything on here. But he can come up with anything any minute. We already went over the economic calendar. Here, this is where you see the move here. Senior Iranian source mediators have proposed a 10-day cessation of strikes to find ways to revive the Iran-U.S. interim deal. Then it says mediators propose Iran and U.S. return to pre-July 9th positions. And then at 8 a.m., Houthis announces sea navigation ban on Saudi Arabia. So I think that's why the market is pulling back a little bit. I'm not entirely sure. Okay. More news. Meta faces Tennessee trial over allegations Instagram was designed to be addictive. Domino's misses quarterly sales. Profits estimates on weak demand. Data center opponents stage 142 protests across the U.S. states. Sandwich chain Jersey Mike's targets 7.94 billion valuation in U.S. IPO. South Korean tumbled more than 4%. Who else here? I don't see much else to talk about there. All right, let's look at some breadth because we didn't really do that on Friday. We will look at my little spread here, dispersion. That came down and then pushed back up, right? Finally pushed down, but we're just still at extremes. Okay, a lot of dispersion. The core 3M also finally lifted a little bit. We'll have to see and track that. Okay, let's go to the bullish percent index charts here. Okay, and we'll start with the 20-day. See where breadth is at. Okay, 58% over the 20-day. Okay, I expect the 50-day to be bigger. Let's see, 65% over the 50-day. Very middling market. Okay, bullish percent index of the S&P 500. We're at a 60% on buy signals. NDX, which is your NASDAQ 100. All right, that pushed lower into 42% on buy signals. Just drill one step farther into the technology sector. That is dropping 35%. Once you get down into the 20s, that becomes very oversold. Okay. Tech's already getting a lift. Memory stocks hit a pounding. Semis. I don't know if this is the bottom of this little correction, but just to be on watch, okay? One sector that's been very, very hot is financials. 88% on buy signals, okay? They had their earnings Also, healthcare was getting overheated. Now it's starting to get overheated again. So I got my eye on those. We'll see. We will see. Okay. Let's go to the market internals for Friday. Okay. Okay. Right here, this is the weekly expected move. Right here, indicator. Notice the market closed right basically on it. Now, the internals, market cap wise, were pretty decent this whole day. Notice equal weight degraded the whole day, but it wasn't. This was not. Markets don't go down. Market cap weight is like this. Okay, so basically, I got in this pullback and took a long. That was my trade. Basically, this pullback, I waited and I waited and I waited. When I got, I believe it was maybe this pullback that I got in. I have to see my stats, but basically I got the pullback. I believe it was this one. All right, yeah, I believe, yeah, it was this one. When this pulled back here, I got long, and then I took profit right here. Not even at the high day. I think it was like a value area high, actually, okay? But just in here, market cap was pretty decently strong. All right. So that's the market internals. Now we can go to daily charts now. And what do we do? There's the expected move in SPY, right? Closed pretty much on it. Okay, so in the grand scheme of things, we didn't even hit the prior week's lows. Yes, last week. Okay, we closed right under the 50 and the 20. Okay, in the big picture, we didn't really do anything. Okay, that's what you got to make sure we understand. Look at this price action. It's garbage. And the daily chart's garbage. We're not down here, right? I think it's just market doesn't know. We're in the summer. Okay, where are we now? 746.30s, 746.30s. We're right up at Friday's highs. Okay, let's look at futures now. So here's futures. Remember, we kept coming into this daily supply and getting sold, right? So now look, the market's back at the 50-day, 20-day. Okay, we didn't hit the prior week's lows either. This is last week's lows. So to me, do we come all the way back up here? I think this is a good shot. I think there's a good shot, and there's a lot of big earnings this week. Okay, let's look at Qs. Okay, we finally took out that demand zone. Gone, right? We did close under the weekly expected move. Okay, but again, you came to a key swing low, right? In a prior monthly low. This was June's lows, right here. And I said, pre-market, this could be, if I was short up here, probably take profit. And you had this nice buy in excess here in this candle. Now, where are we now? 701.90. We are right there. Okay. Right at the bottom of this breakdown. Okay. Let's look at futures. So you can see right here, last month's lows. That's where we came. Took out these little swing lows. And now, what do? You kind of have a daily supply here, so it's not going to be easy. The one thing though is you are setting this like descending triangle that could possibly take out the 285s eventually, and you do not have good support here to the left. But it's all to be determined. I don't know what could happen, right? Doesn't look very bullish, right? But we just had a mini crash in a DRAM and memory stocks. Okay, so People can buy the dip. Right, let's move on. Look at these hourly charts. Okay, so let's go over it. Let me make sure I have a marker. All right, so there is a new demand zone here, so let me put that on there. A lot of stacked demand below us. Okay, we just came in. So this was not the best way to move lower. Okay, and you can see we did push, boom, lower, right? And that was all she wrote. Couldn't go lower. And now we're working our way back up. A possible ceasefire. There's the gap that it couldn't fill. There's a bearish value gap right there. Now, either one of two things happens. We break into this and start to just move back up. And we're just like, okay, great. Did we just price in some more geopolitical risk? What are we doing? Right? Or this becomes the new range. And then the market decides what it's going to do. Don't know. Okay. Today's Monday. Look, we came up. We're starting to create our new range, possibly. I don't know. I really don't. Okay. Break inside this range or keep making a new range. That's pretty much the name of the game right now. Here's your NASDAQ, okay? Let's put that new demand zone there. Okay. And you can see, nice dip in this channel that I talked about as well. That nice channel proved to be support again. Okay. A lot of poor structure above. There's the gap, right, that we couldn't fill on Friday. So, I mean, this would, to me, without any news, kind of looks like a bottom. But again, I don't know. Okay. I really don't. What I do know is you do have some support here. So, do we break inside this range, right? Above 291. Do we go back into 291 into this range? I don't know. There's a lot of poor structure here that you can just get ripped right up, right? And who does that with earnings this week? Does Google do that? I don't know. Intel? We have to see. But remember, we just came a long way down. Okay. Market has to digest all of this now. So that's what I'm looking at for today, right? I usually tend to sit back. It's Monday. Not going to force anything. All right. And then we can go to the market profile and the buying profile. This is your market profile, buying profile. So you can see Friday session, overnight session. Are we creating a new balance area? That's the question. I don't know. You have an unfilled gap. You have a bearish fair value gap right there. Okay. You are close to 100% net long in the overnight inventory. You are in the upper third of the session. You do have excess low here. You have excess high here, right? Setting up for a Monday range bound market, but I don't know that for sure. Okay, we have a bunch of stacked demand here. All right. And you can see this little pattern, right? Right, came down, that low was held. Now, is this the low for us to go higher? I don't know. That's a pretty nice excess low, though. That pretty much is a nice excess low. Okay. Right. What would I say today? Depending on flows, right? I mean, it's looking like the easier trade might be to the long side. Okay. Let's get right into scenarios now. The ES long and short trade scenarios. We're going to break out the session. Okay. So like I was just saying, it's all about, do we go back to this range or do we make a new range, right? I think that's what really the story is right now. Okay. So let's start off with longs. Okay. So like I said, there's a lot of stacked demand here. So one or two things I want to happen. See how we broke Friday's highs in pre-market right into this bearish value gap. We couldn't take it out, right? Which is fine. We just got positive news. Now, does that stay positive? I don't know. For right now, you have to say it probably is a little positive. So you have an overnight VPOC right here at 75.15. Wow, that's interesting. That was the overnight VPOC over here. Very interesting, 75.15. Okay. There happens to be the weekly data anchor VWAP right here as well. Okay, so that even makes some confluence there. So what would I want to see, right? Well, however this market does it, maybe it says it moves up, but then we get some selling. Let's say we come back, test that 75.15. Remember, it's the overnight VPOC. It's the prior overnight VPOC. It's the weekly data anchor VWAP, and there's demand here, right? And then there's a bullish for value gap right below it. Let's just give you that level. That's from 75.12 to 74.99. Okay. So this area, 75.15 to a little below it, if you get support, okay, and you put in that higher low, right? Maybe even retest 75.15. You go long, and you're going to target the gap fill, 75.48. And there's a lot of thin volume up here. This could really carry. Okay, back up to the 75.70s. Month-to-date anchored VWAP. Month-to-date anchored VWAP is 75.59s, right there. Maybe that's your destination. I don't know. But then you'd go back into that range that we were in prior. Okay. So, like I said, any pullback around the 75.15 area, I'm probably interested in, and especially if tech's driving. Okay. Now, the other thing, if I don't get that, and let's say we push straight up, fill this gap. All right. That was the breakdown level, the 75.48s. Okay. Let's say we kind of hang out up here and you're like, wow, I'm going to have to wait for some pullback, maybe in the 75.40 area to go long, target the 75.70s. Okay. That's if I don't get a pullback initially. Okay. That's kind of what I'm looking for as far as longs. Shorts. Remember, if this becomes a new balance area, we just swept the prior highs. Okay, we are close to 100% net long. So what if we come up in here into this bearish for value gap and the unfilled gap, and we don't fill it? You get resistance, come back in, side the overnight range, put in a lower high, right? And let's say the market is not very strong. Well, then here's our balance. I don't think this is the easiest trade, okay, because there's a lot of stack demand. But if you hold on to it, you could just start walking your way down through this bearish value gap, target 74.82 overnight lows, and maybe this Friday's low, 74.73. and then maybe we bounce. Okay. Now, right now, the way I'm looking at this chart, I don't feel super excited about a short. I just don't, unless the market tells me otherwise. But right now, I think there's easier long still. Okay, that is your ES. Let's talk about your Nasdaq. Your Nasdaq. Okay. Oh, just let me mention it really quickly. Remember I talked about ultimate bounce, big moves happen. Well, this 75.90 is still ultimate bounce. That's that's why we got these big moves. Okay. So back to Nasdaq. Ultimate bounce is still 297. In the 24-hour chart, it did move down to 28799, the most traded price of the week. It actually did move that down, but I usually track the regular trading hours, okay? I have them on both charts. That is significant that this volume's here. Okay. So unfilled gap here, right? So it's just you could see it's relatively stronger. Okay. Oop, that's not what I wanted to do. It's relatively stronger than the Nasdaq. You can see it. It's not gapping up, but it's closer to the highs of the overnights than the ES was. Okay. So let's get right into scenarios in the Nasdaq. Let's break out the session. Okay, so I would say the bottom of the breakdown area was around the 293s, right? That's kind of where the bottom of this balance area kind of was. And then we lost it, and then you just took a tumble down. Okay. So I think the setup is very similar here. Very similar. You have an overnight VPOC, right? That is at, it's called the 289s. That happens to be a prior weekly, not last week's lows, but a prior weekly low. Okay. Now, into the scenarios here for the long. You have a demand here, right above it, right? You do have lower a bullish fair value gap. That spans from 28860 to 28824. Okay. Like I said, pullbacks, right? With a bunch of this stacked demands below. Like I said, I feel like we have an excess low that could be the bottom. You never really fully know. But if we pull back into this demand right here, okay, and you get support, right? Let me just give you that demand zone real quick. That's your 28980s to 28921s. So your first pullback into this level, you get support. And like I said, maybe you go to the 289s. Nothing's perfect. And you bounce. Put in a higher low. You're going to target the gap filled 290.79s. And then there's thin volume up here. You could try to go target the 292s, 39s. Okay. And then on top of that is gravy. On top of that is gravy. Okay. I do think the 288s are pretty important here because that is your 24-hour most traded price of the week. So I think if you lose that, it puts buyers on notice. Okay, so I'll just say that. I want to see the NASDAQ hold above 288s. All right, now what could happen also if I get that deeper pullback into this bullish value gap? I don't know if I told you guys, the 28860 to 28824s. Okay, remember support in those is always bullish. Okay, so if you get support in there and it overlaps with a demand zone, and look, right below it's 288 and it holds, put in a lower high, that's a long. You could target the overnight highs, 29110s, and try to go up for the 29239s. Okay, remember I said below 288s, I'm not as excited for the long. Okay, shorts. Like I said, today right now, I don't see me in love with shorts. Okay, I just don't see it. I'm not like excited about it. But there always is a scenario to talk about. Okay, there's not too much I like about it. The only thing I'm seeing right here is if you get a pullback into this demand and it gets bought, right? And we start to go and take out the overnight high. This has to be quick, very quickly. I'll give two scenarios here. If it can take out the overnight high, but then quickly comes back into the overnight range and back into Friday's range, puts in a lower high, that's your short target 288s. Okay. Now, again, another quick one. If quickly we just open and we just go, and there's a little bearish value gap up here, but there is supply right around the 29162s. Okay. If there's a quick rejection here, like boom, in a lower high, and you're like, uh-oh, this market's not that strong, that's a short, same target, 288s. Okay. Like right now, I don't see myself being too excited about shorts. I just don't see it, not right now. Okay. Now, overall outlook. Okay. Overall outlook is for the ES, a lot of stack demand below. A lot of stack demand below. Key level I'm looking at, I don't want to see the market go too much lower than 75.15. Okay. But if it goes a little lower, I still favor the long. I just don't see. Shorts are going to have a tough time to take out all these longs. It's not going to be easy. All right. So that's kind of what I'm looking at in the ES. And the NASDAQ, we just talked about it, right? 288s basically are the most traded price of the 24 hours of the week. I don't want to see the market hang out below that and spend time down there. As long as it supports there, this is bullish. Okay. We just got some bullish news as well. Okay. Tech's been kind of oversold a little bit. Maybe it has more room to the downside. I don't know. Okay. But I really favor longs today. All right. Now, that's it for me today, folks. Smash the like button if you enjoyed that analysis. As always, please subscribe, set that alert. Do this every morning. Give you the market news, the economic calendar, technical analysis, and I just gave you the long and short trade scenarios in the NASDAQ and the ES futures. Okay. If you want more in-depth coverage, you're going to join my Discord. Go to my YouTube homepage, click on the link, and sign up. What are you waiting for? Let me be your indicator. Let me be your indicator. Okay. Now, we have a plan. I have a plan. Hopefully, you have a plan. Okay. I'm going to just sit back and be very, very patient. Like I said, I want to see more of the market's hand, usually on Mondays. Right? Now, if there's something undeniable, I might have to put risk on, but usually, like I said, things are, I think, positively skewed to the upside, to easier longs. Earnings season coming up. We just got out of OPEX, where we have a bunch of money came off the table. July is generally not very bearish. Maybe we have a mini rally. Okay. We'll have to see. All right. Now, everybody, remember, no trade's a trade. Hope everybody has a great day. And if I don't see you in my Discord, I should go live around 9:45 a.m. I will see everybody tomorrow.